Going Commando was approved for development by Sony 5 months before the first game's release, after highly positive reviews from the original's playtesters and because of Sony's confidence in its success. In August 2002, Insomniac Games started designing the visual concept for Going Commando, while still perfecting Ratchet and Clank. Though their first PlayStation 2 title was a huge success, Insomniac felt they could further push the role-playing game mechanics and that the weapons in the original had felt too optional. Now that Insomniac Games had a better understanding of the capabilities of the PlayStation 2, their artwork for the game reflected that. More geometry could be featured on screen and the view at the start of each planet could be longer and more impressive. More traffic could be shown on screen and the environments could be more detailed. The team began conceptualizing a set of big ideas for the sequel, which resulted primarily in the role-playing game elements, and then began to improve their technology to expand the scope of the gameplay and the script. Their primary goal was making the game feel drastically different from other games that were on the market. One common criticism of the original Ratchet and Clank was the design and personality of Ratchet. Ted Price, the game's producer, said to fix this they made Ratchet less cocky. In addition, James Arnold Taylor replaces Mikey Kelly as the character's voice actor, providing a more mature sounding voice. Development took 8 months, during which Insomniac's team doubled from 40 to 80 members. And in November 2003, a year after the release of the original Ratchet and Clank title, Going Commando was released. Though, because the PAL region didn't like their clever title, they named it Ratchet and Clank Locked and Loaded or just Ratchet and Clank 2. After playing and loving the first Ratchet and Clank title, I have high hopes for Going Commando. Does it improve upon its predecessor? Let's find out.
Well, as you can imagine, we've been pretty busy. After Drek's defeat, there were parades, press conferences, fancy dress balls.
And the wiener roast at Al's.
Oh yeah, that.
The story of Going Commando takes right off after saving the galaxy and defeating Chairman Drek, after which Ratchet and Clank have become celebrities, though their lives lack action. After giving an interview, the duo is suddenly transported to the spaceship of Fizzwidget, the founder and CEO of Megacorp. He requests Ratchet and Clank's help to recover a stolen biological experiment. After training and getting a new outfit, Ratchet is headed off to planet Uranus where the experiment was last seen. He finds the thief with the experiment but is unable to retrieve it. After reporting back to Fizzwidget, Ratchet finds out that Clank has been captured. Ratchet heads off to free Clank and after defeating the Tug for Less boss they are finally reunited. After pursuing the thief on numerous planets, they finally confront the thief again on planet Siberius. Ratchet and Clank manage to retrieve the experiment, but the thief escapes again. Fizzwidget meets with Ratchet and Clank to reclaim the experiment, though he destroys their ship, leaving Ratchet and Clank stranded on the desert planet. While exploring the planet, the duo encounters the thief yet again and finds out that the thief is a female Lombax named Angela Cross, who used to work for Megacorp. She informs them that the experiment is a threat to the entire galaxy, after which she gives the location of the testing facility. Ratchet and Clank fix their ship and head to the facility, only to find out that the experiment has now been duplicated by Megacorp with the intention of it being sold as a protopet. Later, Ratchet and Clank are captured by the Tug for Less boss after cancelling their contract with Angela to work with Megacorp. The duo manages to escape and discover that Angela was also captured. They face off against the Tug for Less boss one last time and defeat him, saving Angela in the process. With the intent of stopping Fizzwidget, Ratchet, Clank and Angela make their way to Megacorp's headquarters, only to find out that the person they thought was Fizzwidget was actually Captain Quark. Quark reveals that this was always planned to unleash the protopet upon the galaxy so he can use Angela's device to defeat the creatures and become famous again. However, when he demonstrates the device, it malfunctions, turning the protopet into a gigantic beast that eats him. Ratchet and Clank defeat the monster and save Quark's life. Angela finds the real Fizzwidget and with the help of Clank she is able to fix the device, neutralizing the protopets and restoring peace to the galaxy. Afterwards they hang out at Clank's apartment, wondering what Quark is up to.
Alright fellas, nice and tight now. So you tested this, right? Oh wait, that's why I'm here! Oh, one more thing!
The reveal of Quark being Fizzwidget felt sudden and out of nowhere. There are hints throughout the game, but Quark felt more as an afterthought, which turned out to be the case as the developers put him in after missing Quark's comic relief. This first came in the form of Behind the Heroes segments, but eventually Insomniac decided to make Quark the main villain. I personally found the overall story of the first game more interesting, as Drek was a perfect villain. While I like Quark as a villain and with him being behind it all, it just didn't work for me as Drek in the original Ratchet and Clank. But that's not to say that the story is bad, as the characters are well fleshed out and even more likable than in the first game, with a lot of hilarious moments that give the game a lot of charm. And Ratchet has cooled his mind and is no longer a hot-headed Lombax. So aside from my preference, the developers improved everything in the sequel story-wise. Just like in the first game, the first thing I did was change the inverted controls to normal. But what I immediately noticed is that Ratchet controls a lot better. His moves are a lot faster and responsive, and not as slow and sometimes clunky as it was in the original title. This game supports 16:9 ratio, which is great even though I already played the original with full screen. The first area in this game is a great introduction to the controls of the game for those unfamiliar with the series. And for those who've already played the original, you'll feel right at home. But the greatest addition is of course the strafing ability, as it's now a whole lot easier to deal with large groups of enemies and take the least amount of damage. If you wait long enough at the starting menu, Ratchet will play Jak and Daxter, and if you wait even longer, he will play Sly Cooper. And throughout the levels, posters of Jak and Daxter can be found, which is of course because of the close relationship between Insomniac Games and Naughty Dog.
Sorry.
Health returns in the form of nanotech, and you start with 4 nanotech units, and by attacking enemies you can earn another unit, increasing your health. Though your ammo still doesn't refill after you die, while enemies do respawn, but since you get way more bullets for killing enemies compared to the first game, this is no longer an issue. Though it's worth noting that while enemies only take away 1 nanotech unit at first, they become stronger as you progress, dealing insane amounts of damage. So don't consider yourself invincible just because you have a lot of nanotech units. But to reduce the damage taken from enemies, you can purchase armor, though this costs a lot of bolts, so make sure to always have a large sum of bolts in your inventory. Going Commando adds a lot of new weapons to the roster. You started with your Omni Wrench, but this time you find more powerful versions of the wrench as you explore planets, ensuring that the wrench remains a useful tool throughout your playthrough. You also get the Lancer, which is a long-range pistol, and a gravity bomb that launches powerful bombs. And as you explore planets and earn bolts, you have the option to buy more weapons, such as the Blitz gun that functions the same as a shotgun, the Pulse rifle, a sniper rifle that deals a lot of damage and allows you to zoom in and take enemies out from far away, the Seeker gun that fires missiles that seek out nearby enemies, the Lava gun which functions the same as a flamethrower, the Mini Rocket Tube, a weapon that fires powerful rockets which is incredibly useful against the stronger enemy types, the Mini Turret Glove which lets you deploy mini turrets, Syntonoids that launches 4 Syntonoid robots around Ratchet that attack nearby enemies, the Shield Charger forms a protective shield around Ratchet, the Sheepinator turns enemies into sheep, the Chopper throws stars, the Plasma Coil which fires a bolt of plasma and electricity that also damages nearby enemies, and the Bouncer, which is easily my favorite weapon in the game as it launches a bomb that explodes into smaller bombs, making it incredibly useful to deal with a larger group of enemies. There are also even more powerful weapons like the Rhino 2 or the Zodiac, but since these were crazy expensive, I didn't get them. All of the newly added weapons can be upgraded by using them to defeat enemies, and this is a great addition. You can turn mini turrets into mega turrets, upgrade the gravity bomb to the mini nuke and fire 3 Seeker missiles instead of 1. I immediately switched to a non-upgraded weapon as soon as the weapon leveled up that I was currently using, so that I had a powerful arsenal of weapons. And this motivates you to try out all the weapons. Some do take longer to level up, but once they're finally upgraded they are incredibly powerful and satisfying to use. You can also add mods to your weapons by purchasing them from Slim Cognito using platinum bolts. And this includes weapon modifications that poison enemies, one that electrocutes nearby enemies, and the lock-on mod allows you to lock on to a specific enemy. Some weapons from the first game make a return, and if you've got a memory card with a Ratchet and Clank save on there, you can purchase these weapons for free. And this actually makes sense within the Ratchet and Clank universe, since the time between games is the same time it took for Ratchet's employee discount at Gadgetron to go in effect. Though these weapons can't be upgraded like the new weapons, so after a while they become practically useless and I never used them. Most gadgets from the first game make a return, like the Swing Shot, Heli, Thruster and Hydro Pack and Grind Boots. The Magnum Boots have been modified into the Gravity Boots that now allow you to fully maneuver on compatible surfaces and even jump and use your weapons. And this is a huge improvement over its predecessor and makes these sections actually enjoyable. The new gadgets that have been added are the Charge Boots that allow Ratchet to move through levels faster, the Terminator which can be used to freeze water so Ratchet can move forward, or turn ice into water so Ratchet can swim through it. And this is a great addition that makes for unique platforming sections. The Tractor Beam allows you to move certain objects to reach previously inaccessible areas or solve a puzzle. The Dynamo is used to deploy holographic platforms that become more challenging as you progress, and the Hypnomatic allows you to activate and control receiver bots, which in turn can be used to activate switches so Ratchet can progress. All of these new gadgets make for great additions to the game, and none of them feel out of place or tedious to me. and the sections where you need to use them are a great deviation from most of the shooting sections you'll be doing, making the entire game a joy to play through. Though unfortunately the momentum glider is less fun to use. You only need to use it 3 times in the game, but thanks to inverted controls and turning being really slow, these sections were never enjoyable. And I was happy when they were over so I could enjoy the rest of the game. Luckily now when you open quick select the game pauses, which means you will no longer be taking damage when you try to switch to another weapon. Spaceship battles make a return, though I didn't really enjoy these. Especially the first 2, where you need to deal with 2 waves of incoming enemies, and this is just boring, as you're just picking them off one by one. What makes it more engaging is that you can upgrade your ship, which is mandatory if you want to beat the later spaceship stages. While it did become more enjoyable after I had upgraded my ship, it still felt inferior to the other Ratchet and Clank sections. The hoverbike races replaced the hoverboard races from the first game, which is a good thing because I didn't really enjoy the hoverboard races. The hoverbike is a lot faster, making for much more intense situations. Though there are just 2 maps and just playing those 2 maps does get repetitive. Thanks to the inclusion of boost and weapon pickups, it makes the races more interactive as you need to time when to use boost or attack other racers. There are also flight sections added where thanks to the levitator pads where you obtain fuel, you're able to fly for longer times than with just the thruster pack. And this adds more variety, and since it doesn't control as clunky as the glider, that's not a bad thing. The Ratchet puzzle from the first game has been replaced with 2 other puzzles, and these are so much worse. One just requires you to quickly react and memorize the order when to press the circle, and the other can hardly be called a puzzle as you just need to guess the right direction until you finally get it. I get that they wanted to change the puzzles in the sequel, but instead they should have added more Clank sections. The Clank puzzles now have some new robot types, with one that can form a bridge and another that can lift heavy objects. But the puzzles are so simple that it's over in minutes. So in my opinion they should have spent more time perfecting the Clank puzzles than wasting time on those 2 new puzzles. Giant Clank sections return, but this time Clank takes on bosses. This takes place on a separate planet, and by destroying buildings you obtain ammo and regain health. Though aside from the boss there are regular enemies that constantly respawn, making this less enjoyable as you constantly have to deal with them, dragging out the boss fight from a short but fun experience to a tedious and repetitive experience. A great new addition is the battle arena, where you take on waves of enemies to earn bolts, and this is a great way to get more bolts to buy more weapons, as well as leveling up the weapons you already have. And this is a huge improvement over the first game where it was challenging to find a useful way to earn bolts. Though retrying challenges in the battle arena will earn you less bolts than on your first attempt, so it's best to try another challenge once you've beaten one. And the impossible challenge gives you the most bolts, and while the name of the challenge sounds intimidating, as long as you have a large number of upgraded weapons and strong armor, you should be able to complete the impossible challenge. The third mega boss fight isn't enjoyable. He has an enormous health bar and shooting his projectiles over and over again makes for a not so enjoyable experience. And as soon as you take them out, he fires another salvo, so I was glad when I finally beat him. And thanks to my upgraded bouncer, the final boss also didn't form much of a threat, and I beat him on my first attempt. Which is a huge difference from the final boss from the first game, where it took me countless times before I finally beat Drake. But overall the bosses are a huge improvement, as they are more diverse and are not just bigger versions of regular enemies. Towards the end the game does become more challenging, mostly thanks to the fact that enemies deal crazy amounts of damage and are able to withstand powerful weapons. But if you've bought armor and leveled up almost every weapon, it becomes a lot more doable. Though planets like Grailbin are the perfect example of bad difficulty, as you're just bombarded with yetis that spawn really fast and deal absurd amounts of damage. And this is without a doubt the worst planet in this game for this reason alone. While the other planets near the end are also unforgiving, they aren't as punishing as Grailbin. And when you finally beat these levels it feels incredibly rewarding. What also helps is that the game now at least lets you know when you've reached the checkpoint, removing part of the problem with the original where you never knew if you've reached one or not. Though checkpoints are still not abundant, so expect to try certain sections again and again till you reach the next checkpoint. Just like in the first game, you have the option to enter challenge mode after you defeat the final boss. And to my surprise, I kept playing Going Commando for a few more hours in challenge mode. And I think this shows how much fun the game is to play, since I didn't have the urge to continue playing in the first game. I'd say this also means the second game is a lot more enjoyable overall than the first game, at least for me. Even though the graphics from the first game have aged really well, they fail in comparison with this game. Ratchet and Clank are so much more detailed and they have really nice animations in cutscenes. The environments are also improved, feeling much more alive and detailed than its predecessor. The new voice actor does a great job voicing Ratchet, though to be honest I never had a problem with Mikey Kelly voicing the character, so both voice actors are great in my opinion. The soundtrack is again fantastic, that adds to the feel and atmosphere of the game, though I just ever so slightly prefer the soundtrack of the first game over this one. Still, Going Commando makes for a both visually and sound pleasing experience.
Next, our space rendezvous point has been moved to, and listen up, knuckleheads, the Felsen system in Sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're no good with numbers, find a buddy to help you. Lastly, the company picnic is this Sunday. Don't forget to bring your own juice this time. Hey! I saw that, Cletus! You just earned yourself a write-up.
Don't worry. The boss only yells because he loves us.
I already love the original Ratchet and Clank, but Going Commando improves on almost every aspect of that game. The problems I had, like not being able to strafe, the quick select menu not pausing and the weird conflict between Ratchet and Clank are all fixed in this installment. The only small problem I have with this game is the fact that there are still not a lot of checkpoints, but now that you level up your health and weapons with each attempt, it's no longer an annoying issue. And if this is the only problem I have with the game, I'd say that Insomniac Games has succeeded in making a perfect sequel. This is not only up there as one of the best Ratchet and Clank titles, but is also among the best games the PlayStation 2 has to offer.
Let's get the goods on that experiment. What the?
I think I see the problem.
What? Now even the computers are charging us? That's it. This galaxy blows.